What's up, YouTube? I'm Robert, and this is the Biker Channel. There's a lot of new subscribers, so today I guess I have to reintroduce the channel to people. This is the Biker Bar. I do this on Sundays at 5 p.m. PST. Sometimes it's every Sunday, sometimes it's not. So the best way to know what's going on is just go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Hit the little bell icon. That gives you notifications when things are coming up. And those of you guys that are watching stuff after the fact, the easy way to tell the difference between this and the POV videos is all the Biker Bar thumbnails have the Biker Bar podcast up in icon up in the upper right hand corner. So it's like black and white and yellow. And then the Biker Channel videos, which are more the POV regular video, like YouTube mountain bike video style, is just a white biker icon, the one that's been there since I started since I started the channel. Somebody in the comments says every Sunday except for when it's not. Man, you nailed it. That's dead on the way that it is. I appreciate everybody that's joining in for the show today. I don't always get a chance to engage everybody in the chat, more so just kind of talking to the person. It's more like the Joe Rogan style podcast live stream. So not your typical live stream. So if you guys are throwing up super chats, I want you to know I really, truly appreciate it. It means a lot to me, and it's what helps keep the channel go. I don't put ads in the middle of my videos because A, they're annoying, B, they're annoying, and C, I'd rather like just have you guys support me and the channel any way that you can. So if it's you hit the thumbs up button, if it's you throw a super chat out here and there, or if you could possibly go buy Patreon and check that out. There's extra coupons that I have there for some of the vendors that I've worked with. We'll throw out some discounts, so I put those up there, as well as early release on the POV stuff, which hasn't been a lot lately, but now I'm finally getting over my problem that I was having with editing, which was I was doing it too much. So I needed to take a little break, but now I'm going to come back with more of a regular schedule on that. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but it will be more than it was. So to keep things light and easy, like the subscriber made it earlier. So nonetheless, today's show, I have a guest named Ryan Leech. Some of you guys may have heard of him. Some of you may not, but I guarantee you by the end of the show, you'll have a good idea who he is. So Ryan, I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself and we'll get started from there.
Cool. Thanks, Robert. Yeah, glad to be on after quite a long time of back and forth. We finally got a date, so I'm stoked to be here chatting.
Yeah, I think the first time we started talking was like, shit, it's been over a year, because I think I met you at Sedona. I was with Norco, and you were there as well, right?
Yeah, right, exactly.
Do you ride for them, or were you just so hanging? You're like friends with them, or
23 years, one of the longest. I think there's maybe one or two other riders that have been sponsored as long as I have by one company their entire career. So,
yeah, I think Hans No Ray Way. I had him on the show. He's been with, is it GT, right?
GT.
Yeah.
Yeah, to GT.
And Lanowski was with Giant forever, and he recently that changed. So
yeah, that changed. Yeah, he was ramping up the years, but he had a few other sponsors before that as well. Schwinn was a big one for him early in his career.
So you've been with Norco for how long?
23 years.
Holy shit. I didn't even know that they were around that long. I met them through I think Stickard is the one that introduced me to them initially. And I had heard of them because they were like, and all I knew of them at the time was like they were a Canadian company. Mm-hmm. And I went to this kind of like one of their events that they put on for their bike shop guys, like their dealer event.
Yeah.
And I was talking to Mike Ralph, who you probably know as was one of their guys for Northern California for a long time. And he's like, yeah, we've been around for like 50 some years. I was like, really? I totally didn't know that.
Yeah. So I mean, they've been pushing in the US market over the last 10 years pretty strong, and that's why a lot of mountain bikers didn't know as much about Norco previously. So
are you Canadian or?
Yeah, Canadian. BC.
So so you're from BC?
Yeah, grew up close to Vancouver.
So basically you were born with a bicycle attached to you.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, 23 years with Norco is a long time. I started before that as well. So, I mean, I was in the early days of mountain biking, really. I mean, it was like a pretty small sport comparatively to what it is now when I was getting into it. You know,
what year about was that?
Oh God, like I guess 30 years ago or something.
So early 90s.
Yeah, yeah.
That's right about whenever I first started riding mountain bikes. And it was definitely, I think in my channel intro video, I said it was road bikes with like knobby tires, basically.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Because I
Well,
mean, the first bike that I bought was, I mean, even the top of the line, first bike that I bought was a Giant. First, like legit, like not from the Montgomery Wards or whatever at the time, like was a Giant, and the top of the line Giant at that time was fully rigid. Everything was fully rigid, like
totally.
biopaste chain rings
Oh
and
yeah.
like what they called oversized tubing, which is like,
I remember having a rock. I remember getting into like riding over logs, and I had a triple chainring on the front with a rock guard as well on the outside. Like,
yeah, I had this thing on my bike that was like it was something similar that they had in BMX at the time. It was like a plastic piece that mounted onto the bottom of the bottom bracket. And then so you would hit, like, you just kind of do a wheelie into a log. And then that plastic piece, you would just kind of throw your weight forward and it would slide until it grabbed that back tire.
yeah,
And it'd keep you from wrecking up your chain rings. But I remember like when Rock Ring came out, that was like a big deal. It was like, oh, wow.
yeah, boy. Like the way.
So how did you get started into mountain biking?
Well, just cross country racing was kind of the first sort of passion of mine as 12, 14 years old, racing cross country downhill. And that's when I, quickly kind of trials riding caught my eye around that time. And, that's it quickly changed from focused on cross country to practicing trials, and then trials quickly took over for me, and pretty much that's all I ever did.
So for people that don't know who you are, like kind of your career has been a trials rider or just a professional mountain biker in general. How would you sum up what you've been doing for the last 30 years?
Yeah, so I became well known in the local Vancouver scene for trials riding, and a local group invited me to join a trials demo team called Team Orb from Hornby Island, and did shows with a group of other guys. Norco caught our eye, and we became the Norco Factory Trials team, and I was quickly becoming the star of that team, and caught notice of a few of the filmmakers. Of course, the young mountain bike scene blew up from films that were coming out of BC. So Radical Films, Christian Begin and Bjorn Enga, who made that series Cranked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They invited me to go down to Peru to film a segment for Crank 3, and so I did that, and that was one of my first big films to get me into sort of the mainstream mountain bike world. It was, trials riding in a movie that was otherwise about shredding mountain bikes over gnarly terrain.
Right.
And so trials riding kind of got me into that film, my kind of unique style of kind of pushing the limits. And from that point on, I was basically traveling the world doing trial shows, traveling for, 250, 300 days a year, performing, doing stunt shows, entertaining people, whether it's a mountain bike event or something totally different, like a business meeting or, a festival. I was busy, or Crashed Ice, Red Bull Crashed Ice,
So how did you get into trials? Because you didn't mention that you started on BMX, right? So was that not a thing that you did when you were younger? Or?
No, straight into mountain biking. I grew up next to a forest and started riding my bike in the forest, just splashing through puddles because it was fun. And
right.
And then I was at a store and picked up a magazine there. I was like, holy, this is an actual sport. Like I thought I was just riding my bike in the forest. I thought I was like the first one doing it, but
right.
on the magazine, I was like, shit, yeah, other people do this. This is amazing. I studied that magazine, this mountain biking magazine, front to back, like, 20 times. I was hooked.
When I first started, I grew up in Pennsylvania. So, have you been to Pennsylvania? I would imagine probably.
I have, yeah.
Pretty green state, and gets a lot of rain and stuff like that. And, there was always like little dirt trails that got you from like this part of town to that part of town or whatever as a kid. Like we would be riding our BMX, and that's kind of like what we did after school or whatever. We would go like ride around town from like one jump spot or one place where we knew there was this, you could jump over this alleyway and you ride over there. And it's kind of like, the little dirt stuff, you didn't really think of it as actually like something that was a sport, so to speak. It was just kind of like a way to get from point A to point B. Mm-hmm. And somewhere along the line, my mom started dating this guy that was into mountain biking. And all of a sudden I was like this, 14-year-old kid riding with a bunch of like 35-year-old dudes. And it was kind of like what you said. It was like, oh, wow, here's something that, like, for me, it was something that I was good at, instead of like all the traditional sports guys at school that were like playing football or basketball or baseball or whatever. It was like, I was just good at riding bikes. I wasn't necessarily like a prodigy or anything, but I think that's what really kind of drew me into it, and being in the nature and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, that's the great thing about mountain biking, and the places it can take us are incredible. Just in a day, just a regular ride, you get deeper into the forest or wilderness than you ever could just hiking.
Yeah. Last year I went to Hawaii for one of my buddi's weddings, and he's a mountain biker as well. And we went out and we rode, this trail that's like there in Maui, and it's just so funny when you get out there, because it's like all these other people that are there, like all they saw was, the 100 yards of beach in front of their hotel room.
Yeah.
The whole time that we were there. And it was like, here we're out there just like this beautiful forest, and like the way that the trees grew and the roots through the trail. And just, it was like, man, this is so amazing to be part of. And it wouldn't have been something that would have been part of if I wasn't into this sport, and I think that's something that's really, to me, that's really valuable about like mountain biking, is that you have to get outside of like the norm to do it,
Yeah, right. For sure. Yeah, it is. It's and it's a community too. I mean, it's a growing sport, it's a big sport, but still it's not so big that you can't just immediately connect with, the bunch of riders that are in the parking lot at the trailhead, before a ride. It's just like, wow, these are, and it's just, I don't know, the sport seems to draw and, or in a way create really interesting people, because, they're people, like you said, that they can get out of their comfort zone. They're not afraid of putting in the effort to climb a mountain and, use up a bunch of energy to get to a really cool spot there. They're risking, their well-being by the sport. They're pushing those limits, they're exploring their edges, and meeting a lot of really interesting people, having a lot of conversations, traveling to really cool places to do the sport. It seems to be that, there's just a lot of really cool people out
there.
I
know, definitely have made a lot of friends in the community over time. And, especially obviously since starting the channel, just holy crap, I've met so many people. I've been so blessed to be able to ride with all these different people. Some of them, pro level guys like you, or some of them just regular dudes like me, and just, it's been really cool. And I mean, I had that opportunity in a much smaller circle before I started the channel, but man, it's definitely one of the things that the channel has done for me, is actually like made me take that effort when I go somewhere else to go ride, and maybe before it wouldn't have been something that came to mind first, like now it's like, oh, I'm going on a business trip to Houston. What's there to ride? You know what I mean? It's like before it would be like, oh, I'm going there for work. I'm going to go do my shit, come back home, and then ride. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. It's actually interesting. Like, it's weird in a way. That was kind of like me, even though my career was mountain biking. I traveled all over the world, and I was doing trial shows, and trial shows aren't in the really cool mountain biking spots. They're in a convention center, or in a parking lot at a bike shop, or, somewhere just at a stadium, whatever it is. And I traveled to so many cool places, but never got to go mountain biking in these places. It's only in the last, probably 6-7 years where I've started to do way more mountain biking rather than trials riding, that I've discovered that, man, it's a really great time to be a mountain biker.
You know, when those moments like that happen, it's always like you kind of want to kick yourself in the ass a little bit. You're like, man, what all these places that I could have ridden or that I probably won't have the opportunity to go back to. And it's like,
yeah,
man.
I didn't have the end. Like trial shows were just so tiring.
Yeah.
They're so social too. You're at an event, you're with people all day long and you're performing, and generally there wasn't as much energy left to go.
Yeah.
But boy, some of the places I've been, I want to go back to for the mountain biking. So
right. So you said whenever you went and did that first video, you said it was Crank 3 is what you said?
Crank 3 wasn't. I had a cameo, a couple little cameo shots in Crank 1.
Yeah. So when you went to go, you said you went down to South America for that, you said?
Yeah.
How old were you at that point?
Oh gosh. I was maybe I was still a teenager for sure.
So were you out of high school yet, or
might have
it was
been,
like something you did over your summer break, or
might have been 18 or something, maybe just out of high school, something like that.
What was it like being an 18-year-old kid getting flown to a different country to ride bikes?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty wild. It was such an adventure. I was so dedicated. I was like, the only thing in my life was trials riding, doing shows and, working on my sponsorship deals and traveling around and just practicing, like training and practicing just so much. I was so focused. And so I didn't really get a chance to think third person perspective about like the fact that this is a really cool situation for like 17-year-old, 18-year-old to be in.
Yeah.
So I look back and think, holy shit, that was amazing. What a wild, different, unique way to sort of grow out of high school and into a career, unusual, So.
I mean, at that point, were you thinking like it was going to be a career, or did you think like, oh, I'm going to be able to do this for a few years and then I'll do that?
Honestly, I thought it was, maybe a couple years. I thought, I was already making money in high school, and I thought, well, I might as well give it my all. Like now that I'm out of high school, I've got all the time in the world. I'm just going to try to keep going with this, see where it goes. And, here I am 23 years later or whatever it is when I got on with Norco, still in the industry. I mean, obviously it's a new capacity in which I'm in the industry. I'm really stoked to be able to translate my pro career into what I'm doing now, the online coaching, skills coaching business. It's not always easy for pros to translate back into or stay in the industry. And I feel really grateful.
For me, I actually didn't know that like what your pro career was. When I had first heard of you was basically from your online skills that you're doing. Like I was hearing like your name being buzzed around like that. Like, oh, you got to check this guy's stuff out. So what is it that you're doing over there?
Well, yeah, it was 4 years ago. I launched an online course called the 30-Day Wheelie Challenge. And it was an idea that came to me while I was on summer holiday, lying on the beach. I was like, shit, I've been trying to teach people how to wheelie in clinics for my whole career. And, I always spew everything I know about wheelie to them in the course of, a couple hour skills clinic. And it's like, fire hose of information to these people. They try it a few times and then they go home and probably forget about it. And they don't have the dedication to continue through. So this course allowed me to teach a unique drill each day for 30 days with 30 lessons. Someone can work through a bunch of progressions and have conversations with me or the other coaches on my team and work through a skill like the wheelie. And it exploded. It was super popular. People loved it. People were learning how to wheelie, and I was like, wow, cool. I'm super stoked on this. I've got so much to teach. I've been a teacher my whole pro career as well. That was one of the first jobs I had was as a 16-year-old teaching mountain bike skills. And so having this online platform was perfect for me to translate everything I've learned through my pro career and through in-person clinics and reach a broader network of riders. And also it transformed how I coach and teach as well, which is really inspiring for me. So
that's interesting. I mean, there's a couple of questions I want to have out of that. So first of all, so 30 lessons, how long is a lesson to talk about, like, for instance, that wheelie? I would imagine you have a bunch of other stuff on the site. Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's tons of stuff. It's
right.
It's
So,
a little crazy how much it's grown over these past 4 years. But
so you break out doing a wheelie in 30 lessons. I don't even know how that's possible. Like, can you walk me kind of through like the steps that you teach people, or how you go about that?
Yeah, totally. Like, so, obviously it's all about practice, gotta log the hours. You gotta spend time on the bike practicing the wheelie consistently for 30 days is the minimum. And I call it the 30-day wheelie challenge, but it's actually the 30 lesson wheelie challenge, because each lesson may take a number of days before you get to the point where you can move on to the next lesson, or you might need a few rest days because practicing can be tiring. But for instance, like the first day, the day one, you're not even on your bike. It's all about preparation. You're actually writing some goals. Like, I've got a bunch of questions about the previous wheelie experience you've had, where it's led you, where the frustrations are, what your goals are, where you envision yourself through the process. And you're invited to share some of those things on that lesson with the coach team and make some declarations. It's called your wheelie words. So get them to add some, isolate just a few words that they can carry with them on this learning journey. So there's a lot of mental aspects linked in throughout the process, because wheelies are also really dangerous and scary to learn. Like, a lot of people they get to the point where it's like, they've flipped over on their ass and smoked their tailbone, or, they're just too scared to pop up into that float zone. So a lot of the first part of the course is helping them develop trust and safety. Safety is key. So there's a ton of rear braking drills, getting them comfortable using their rear brake to prevent them from falling over backwards. So there's a bunch of creative drills that I've got for that. But even before that, like, just even learning how to get the front wheel up in a nice, controlled, crisp way, we get them used to doing that. Section on side balance, a few lessons on side balance, because most people will pop up and then they'll fold to one side and they'll fold the other side and never be able to carry the wheelie forward and keep it going. So there's a lot of focus there.
It's really interesting to me, because I've never been a person to do a wheelie, and it was not that, like, I can ride some gnarly trails, but like, I remember, I think it even comes back to like high school when I was riding like BMX, and there was like this one dude that I knew, that guy could ride a wheelie for like a mile. I swear to God, like this dude, like, I remember, like, I mean, in our group of friends, he was like amazing to us. Like he could like ride up the railing on the bridge whenever the river or whatever, and like do a wheelie across the railing and then come down. Like, he was, essentially a trials rider, right? And it was just like, but to us, it was just, he was the guy that did the really good wheelies. You know what I mean? It was like, there was the other guy that could, hit the biggest jumps, and there was, you know what I mean? It's like, but I just, like, every time I ever tried, it was like, it didn't work. So fuck it. That's just not my thing, But now it's like, listening to you talk about the way to go through it. It's like, man, that'd be fun. Something fun to just try. Like,
totally. Yeah. Well, I got you set up with that promo.
Yeah. Maybe I'll have to do a video about me trying the first 30 days.
Yeah.
Like, day 1, get drunk and think about it. Day 2, be hungover and still think about it. I can see where this video is going. No, but that'd be really cool. Like, because I honestly, like, but do you feel like learning how to wheelie equates to something that you can do while you're actually like riding, or is it just something to do for fun?
Well, it's both. It's definitely more on the fun side, but you'd be surprised at how grateful a lot of the people who go through the course are, just in how they found it complemented the rest of their mountain biking. Um, you know, you are spending time, you're logging time on the bike in the saddle, you're getting intimate with your bike, you're developing your balance, you're developing, this sensitivity to how the bike reacts when you're on your rear wheel, and how the front wheel, turning that while you're cruising along affects your balance. You're developing all sorts of different muscles on your body that are utilized in technical riding situations out on the trail. It is pretty neat how just practicing the wheelie does complement indirectly to better poise on the bike when you're out riding technical.
There's like learning that there's like quick twitch muscles that are bike control and braking and stuff like that. I can see how that
occurs. Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Because in my mind, like it's easy for me to say, like, if I want to learn how to manual, like, which I can't do either, weird. And like, to me, like, I could see like where that plays in riding, like
much more direct. Yeah, manuals are more of a direct link to riding situations for sure. And there's the course on that called the Manual Masterclass, so that's another one to check out.
How many classes is in that?
That one, the manual, it's I think that's about 28 lessons.
Wow.
Yeah,
man, you're gonna eat up all my free time. I'm not gonna be able to do my channel anymore. Be like, what happened to the biker? Well, he did that interview with Ryan Leech, and he has been gone ever since then. So.
Yeah, no, practice, man. I mean, that's the big thing is, these lessons definitely help expedite and speed up the learning process, help people prevent making mistakes that they don't need to. And, but it's also about getting them out on the bikes, doing drills and practicing, logging time on the driveway at home or at the local park, or before when you're waiting for your buddies at the trailhead, just something to play with and work on and practice. That's, you go mountain biking, you're going to learn naturally, but it's those that put in that extra time to practice outside of the actual being out on the actual trail that start to really be the ones who are cleaning those tech sections, or they're hitting jumps a little more confidently, or railing corners just a little more elegantly, because they've explored, they've done that intentional practice. They're not just out riding. So
I think there's a few different things that I could say about that. Like there's been a few things in my life where I really spent a lot of time with to learn, and that dedication does definitely work out to be something. Like I played guitar when I was younger. There was hours and hours and hours and hours that I spent doing that, and some of them, like it's funny when I think about it in this manner. It would be like if I was trying to learn how to do a wheelie, it'd be like all I did was lift my front wheel off the ground for a second for months. Like in equating to a guitar would be like playing this one riff over and over and over again until like my neighbors and my family was like, if I have to hear Smoke on the Water one more fucking time, like
no.
But another thing too was like I remember teaching myself how to hacky sack when I was younger. That was like a big thing in the late 80s, early 90s. And I remember I would come home from school and I would just like I would do this little contest to like see how many like continuous hits I could get in a row. And it would just be like, I do that from the time I got off of school until like the sun went down sometimes. And it's just like, pick it up, kick it twice, pick it up, kick it twice, pick it up, kick it 10 times. Oh my God, I got 10 times. You know what I mean? It would just be like
the addicting part right there.
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah. So, but it's funny with biking, like, I guess, in the BMX world, kind of like how I grew up, or more like street BMX, it would be like, okay, let's try to jump off of these stairs, or let's try to hit this jump and be able to land that far out. And it'd be like, okay, we put a rock where whoever landed the furthest, and just keep going and going and going.
Yeah.
And with mountain biking, I don't necessarily spend a lot of time, now that I'm thinking about it, because I'm talking to you, like really trying to like hone on some of those skills. I'd say the only times that I do is every once in a while, like me and my buddies we'll do a ride where it's like we don't give a shit about the miles, and it's just like, let's go session this one section.
Yeah.
And we'll like hit it like 25 fucking times and be like, okay, let's go session this other section, you know, and just like those days, man, whenever you come back to that place and you're railing, it's like, dude, I have this line like dialed now.
Yeah.
You know, and you like trust your bike. Or I know like the first time I was up in Truckee and I did this like huge rock roll, it was like when I first came up to this and my friends did it, I was like, you guys there's no way I'm doing that. It's like the rock's like 6 feet tall and it's like looks like a wall that they're running into and then going down the other side. And I was like, yeah, whatever, you guys are cool, sweet, can we go? And then I watched them do it like a few times and I was like, okay, well, I guess I gotta try. And then once I did it, it really changed my riding like completely everywhere else, because it would be things that maybe I would have came up to and got scared of because it was steep like that now I was like, dude, I rolled down that rock, like it's just like that, like and even to this day, like I rode a trail in Truckee, oddly enough, just like 2 weeks ago, and it had a big rock roll in it, and I remember like sizing that rock up in terms of like one of those first rock rolls that I did, and it was like, it's a little bit steeper, but I think I could do this.
Yeah, cool. That experience pays off. And yeah, just being in that situation with friends where you assess something out, you scope it and you watch them do it, and you know, maybe get a tip or two and decide to give it a try, and you conquer a few fears and you get that experience, and you know, you're set from that point on in that kind of situation, that kind of similar kind of riding situation. And you know, it's interesting, you know, that is the thing about mountain biking, is that you're gonna, like, you go mountain biking, you're gonna learn, and a lot of people are content with just that. They go mountain bike and they ride with their friends and they gradually learn, and you know, they are happy with that. Although some people, they're not quite content. I mean, you had some BMX, you had a little bit of a background of being on your bike and playing with some things and bunny hops, maybe that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But other people just kind of have that urge that, you know, they see a certain kind of move going over a log or up a ledge or around a corner, and like, I want to learn. I want to dig into this a little bit more. I want, you know, I'm impatient. I want that now, and sort of have that drive to improve. That's kind of more important to them than others who may be content just getting out to ride with friends and not really push the limit. So
I think for me, for whatever reason, I'm at that spot where I want to have that drive in my life now. And I think in the past it was like riding bikes was like a therapy thing to just go out and like get away from everything and kind of like ADD. I'm an ADD type of person, so it was like really nice to have something where you're just focused on that one thing and there's nothing else going through your mind.
Totally, yeah.
You know, and but now it's like recently I bought a hardtail, and it's like people were like, why'd you buy this hardtail? And I'm like, well, because it made all these trails harder, and it made me like it's like, you know, I've ridden all this stuff on a bike that's very capable of it. Now I want to ride it on something that's just as capable, but makes me look at it in a different manner. And part of buying that bike was like, I wanted to get back to like, there's tricks that I used to do BMX wise that I haven't done in fucking 20 years. You know, it's like, okay, well, I know I can do those. So I need to work on that again. Now, you know, just like little stuff, you know?
Totally. Oh, cool. That's cool. You're kind of feeling that.
Yeah. So like, I'm definitely like, honestly, when I started this conversation with you, I definitely did not think that I was going to come out of this wanting to learn how to wheelie. And really you the way that you were talking about your training lesson, like it really kind of grabbed my attention. I'm very curious to see what your lessons are like. That'll be fun to take a look at. So somebody asked me on the chat here if you were in a spaceship. So, and at first I was like, what the hell are they talking about? And then I thought about it. It's like, yeah, it does kind of look like Challenger in the background there. So you're inside of your truck. You want to go give me a little rundown on that?
It's like the door kind of opens a little bit like a spaceship. I'm in my camper. If you watch this door, see if I can get to the handle here. Listen to the sound and. So
we just need some dry ice to like billow out, and then
this is the it's like an overland camper, an expedition camper on the back of my pickup. So it's I don't know, for those who are, it's hard to see. It's got kind of the kitchen there, and this it's a cool, it's called an earth cruiser, this particular truck camper.
So for people that are listening, it's basically something that kind of bolts into the bed of your truck, or do they remove the bed, or?
Yeah, no, it bolts down to the truck bed. So this is it's an Earth Cruiser GZL. It's super lightweight, super functional. I've got it mounted on my I've got a Ram Power Wagon built for off-road, and the camper's built for off-road. Got sort of a setup here where it can be out in some pretty cool camp spots for days off grid. Solar on the roof. Can work on my computer, work on projects. Got tons of 20-gallon water tank, 5-gallon or 8 gallons of hot water, heater, fridge, 2-burner stove, shower.
And then so people can visualize it that are listening. So the roof kind of opens like an accordion, and opens up then, and so you have like basically like kind of like a one single bed in there, and then your kitchen. Is there a bathroom in there too, or?
No, basically because I'm always in the bush, so bathroom I'm good for digging a hole.
Use the latrine.
Mm-hmm, yeah. But the bed folds down, and it's a queen bed actually, so
cool,
super comfy. And
what made you decide to do that to your truck instead of like going the Sprinter route like much?
I looked at definitely. I researched it pretty heavily. Definitely looked at the Sprinter route, but I wanted something a little more capable off road to get to some pretty cool camp spots. Like Sprinters are even the 4x4 Sprinters are pretty limited in their off road.
Yeah, they don't have a whole lot of like clearance. I doubt there's a lift kit for them either.
There are. You can get them lifted a little bit, but still, it's lot still that they can't do compared to a setup like this.
Yeah, I know when I saw the truck, like it reminded me, for those of you guys that can't see it from the outside, like it looked like reminded me of something I saw in like Jurassic Park or something. It was like this thing is like ready to just go out there and like bounce around like the outback in Australia or something like that.
Totally. Well, that's where this particular camper was designed. The company Earth Cruisers actually was formed in Australia, so they've got that sort of
right.
And sort of
So everything kind of locks down really well into place and stuff like that. So whenever you're off-roading, you don't have to worry about anything like coming loose or anything like that.
Oh, absolutely. And everything's all marine grade, and it's all stainless. You won't find any bolt that's not stainless steel in here. So really well built and put together. So pretty stoked on.
What made you decide that you wanted to get that, was
well, I mean, I like traveling, I like camping, and I don't like going to hotels, and so I figured, well, just get something that's set up that I can be off grid with. I don't want to go plug in at some campground. I want to get out into the mountains, into these beautiful spots that no one else can get to, and I want and having a pickup truck. It's lightweight. I can still fly down the highway, no problems, and So
do you do a lot? I don't know what's the like. You're Canadian. I can't remember if we talked about that on the beforehand or afterwards. So is there, I don't know what the laws are like there, like as far as like going out into the woods, is there like
Oh yeah.
Like what we have here in the States, like BLM area where you can kind of camp anywhere, or is it like that everywhere, or like what's it like up there?
It's pretty awesome in the States. Like the BLM land is it's easier to free camp out in the wilderness in the States, I find, than it is in Canada.
That's really shocking to me. I would have expected, since I in my head, it's like, seems like there's probably a lot more uninhabited land in Canada than it is in the US.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, that is true. I mean, it's not like, I wouldn't say it's hard. It's just I really like the places I can get to in the US. I mean, there's partly it's just like in the Moab areas in Arizona, which is where I'm usually going down there in the winter. But in the summer here, like we've got a shit ton of logging roads, forestry roads in BC. They're everywhere. And so that's a prime area to find some nice camp spots. A lot of lakes, a lot of beautiful lakes. So you know, there's definitely camping by the lakes. There's a lot of forestry campgrounds that are free. Like the provincial government gets the some of these forestry road areas that are, why not, when there's a forestry road that's close to a beautiful lake, why not put in access to camp by that lake for people who want to get out and camp? And so they've done that in a lot of really beautiful remote places throughout the province. So
then do they have like restrooms there, or it's like nothing?
Some of them do, yeah. A lot of them have outhouses, but that'd be the only facility, and they'd be free. A lot of them. Some of them you have to pay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Other than that, I mean, yeah, it's just we've got a lot of trees here, so it's a lot harder to put a road in compared to somewhere like Arizona.
Right. But then I guess the logging industry up there is probably cutting in a lot of stuff and whatnot, kind of like the PNW is here in the States.
Yeah.
So so you drive that truck all over the place. Do you pretty much just go down between BC and Arizona like you were just talking about?
Yeah, kind of. Like I went down to southern part of Baja California this winter. And well, I actually, in November, I committed to going fully nomadic. So that's this camper was my only home as of November last year. But I wanted a little more of a home base for the summer. So I landed in Squamish, living in Squamish, BC here for a couple months during the summer. And then probably I'm going to travel around in September, October a bit in BC while the weather's good. And then head down south again for the winter. I mean, and that's the cool thing is like running my coaching website. I can run it from anywhere. It's so I can do and it's best that I'm at really cool mountain biking places because I'm always filming and collecting content and footage for new courses. So
basically, whenever you're traveling around, you're creating new content, but not for like YouTube, like me, but more for your channel. Then
exactly, yeah.
So you're kind of going through the same kind of like daily grind of like, okay, well, what am I going to come up with next?
Pretty much, yeah, exactly. So
I mean, like to me, like I don't even know like where all like you would go. Like, what are some of the things? So obviously, like a wheelie and a manual. Like, what are some of the other things that you go over on your site?
Yeah, so I mean, so there's like, so I've got manual masterclass, bunny hop masterclass, the wheelie challenge. I've got the cornering continuum, which is a massive course, which is like cornering is one of these topics that you'll always be working on your cornering. It's like I don't know, it's cornering it's such a amazing and mysterious.
It's definitely something that I've, like I said, like recently just kind of like come into like really trying to pay attention to those things. I think, you know what I think it is? I think it's like, I finally got to a point where it wasn't like I really needed to get better to ride anything else. You know what I mean? Like I could ride everything, but it was like, okay, well, can I ride it faster, or can I ride it more fun, or can I ride it and not miss that, like that one line that I could have took instead I took the easier one. It's like, and I think that's probably what has like got me now to a point where it's like, okay, well, no, I want to spend some time on that. I remember like doing a trail in Santa Cruz and just thinking like, okay, like I watched some guy's video and he was talking about, you know, how to corner. And I remember like going through like the flow trail and being like, really like, instead of like taking the trail and being excited about what I was riding, like looking at it as this is an awesome opportunity to really work on my cornering.
Oh, totally. Flow trail.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Because it's like such a long, like continuous, like corner, berm. You know, like how can you not work on it? You know?
Yeah. So having some ideas of things to explore and be curious about when you're hitting a trail like that is the basis of the cornering continuum course that I created. It's an exploratory course because every corner is different. You can't teach someone how to corner with one set of instructions.
Right.
That's the tricky thing. And that's why I created a free course called Trailhead Tip Traps that I launched as a Christmas gift last fall. And it goes into some of these bits of advice that people give, you know, friends at the top of the trail, such as, oh yeah, make sure you drop your outside foot when you're cornering, which is, yes, that's useful for some corners, but definitely not all corners. So filling in some of the extra bits of information. So there's always, you know, projects like that I'm doing.
That was one of the things that I had like seen on that video and that I was thinking about that first time I went down flow. But I've definitely, like what you just said, I've definitely noticed on my own accord, like, yeah, that doesn't always work the greatest. So like sometimes I need to have my feet level because of this type of terrain. And it doesn't make sense to drop that foot because you're gonna like clink it on some rock or something like that, you know, and next thing you know, you're gonna be Superman, you know. So it's funny that like when you hear somebody, at least for me, you hear somebody that like you that is good at articulating on how to teach things, it makes me realize how much I know that I don't really think about, you know. And I would imagine like teaching somebody, like when I was trying to like helping teach my son to ride mountain bikes, it's like really made me step back and think about, oh wow, like I actually am a lot better than, like there's so many things that I take for granted. I'm just like, oh yeah, this is how you roll over this. Like just kind of throw your weight over this way and you'll be good. You know what I mean? And they're like, what the fuck are you talking about, man? You know, like
no, it's there's certainly an art to it, man. You got to be so precise in your words when you're coaching and you're teaching. And it's been a beautiful process for myself as well and really enjoyable to just find the right words to use when trying to convey a drill or some theory or physics behind a certain technique.
Well, it has to be even harder, like, because you're not one-on-one with these people. Like they're watching a video of you. So you don't get to read that like body language of, are they getting it? Or am I over explaining this? Or how do you deal with that?
Well, it's interactive. It's a community. So, so one is I'm aware of that, which is really important. I'm aware. And second is that the members of my website can ask questions. So they can be real specific and get feedback from me or some of my other coaches. And they can also upload videos of their practice sessions.
Oh, neat.
And so when they submit those videos, then they get that more specific critique. It's
so I go out, I'm trying to do a fucking wheelie. I'm like, dude, I can't fucking do it. And I take a video of it, I upload it. And you have other people, like, or how many other people are helping coach with you?
I've got a team of 20 ambassadors and coaches.
Oh, wow. So there's a boatload of people working on this project.
Oh yeah. It's a great team. Some are volunteer, some are paid.
Yeah. So then at that point, you just critique the video and be like, no, your video skills suck. I can't tell what you're doing. Or
sometimes that happens.
Or you can actually be like, oh, it looks like you're like really leaning left, or like why are
and also it gives them the opportunity to watch their own video, which is super revealing all in of itself. So they get the benefit of watching themselves, and they get the benefit of having coach critiques and suggestions for how to proceed. So
that's crazy.
yeah.
So I definitely know what you mean about watching yourself, because I'm obviously spending the last 2 years of my life editing myself ride. Like you get to learn a lot about yourself and how you handle things and
Yeah.
what words you say over and over again.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, absolutely. I know for me, filming intros, for instance, I'm a big hand talker. So like when I'm when I'm editing, I'm like, oh gosh, like just put your hands down for a second, like flying all over the place, trying to convey a point or something. So
Yeah. So are you doing editing, or I mean, do you have people that's editing for you, or how's that work?
I'm doing the editing. Yeah.
Was that something that you just had a passion for, or you just kind of learned on the fly?
I've kind of done it a little bit through my whole career. I actually produced 3 films earlier on in my career. One called Manifesto. For if there's any mountain bikers that have been in the scene for a long time, they might remember that film. It made waves certainly in the trials world, but also a bunch of mountain bikers got that film too. And then I made one called Mastering the Art of Trials, and another one. Yoga for mountain bikers. But yeah, so those were films those were all DVD based films. Like that's how old they were. It's quite a long time ago. And
So
I did editing for that.
So you just like went out and bought a camera and decided you were going to do this, or you like got funding and like people helped you, or how did that go?
No, it was those were self-produced ones for those films back then. You know, being a pro rider, I was always working with different cinematographers and photographers, and so I knew I was picking up on the angles that they would take and, you know, how they shot. So I was learning as a pro. I learned what worked.
Yeah, totally.
So when I produced my own stuff, you know, I've got that knowledge. I just have to work out some of the tech details of the camera and microphones and that kind of thing. So I picked up that pretty early on in my career. And then, you know, starting this coaching business, I had all the ingredients to get it going. I knew how to film, I knew how to talk in front of the camera, and, you know, I knew the skills. You know, I was a coach already, and just put it all together and got things going. So
that's really cool. So I mean, like, what drove you to do that? I mean, you were like doing fine in your career. You're just like, I want to try something different for fun, or?
Well, no, I mean, I was doing fine in my career, but you know, I'd done thousands and thousands of these trial shows, like abused my body. I mean, I was working hard, traveling, and I'd been trying to figure out how to get out of relying on doing trial shows to earn a living for a long time. And, you know, I was aware it was taking a toll. You know, I became a yoga instructor. And I thought, okay, yeah, I can start doing more yoga and mountain biking related events. And I did a few mountain biking and yoga retreats. There's called Ride and Reach with Ryan Leech. I did a bunch of those up in
that's catchy.
in Whitehorse. I got my certification to be a coach, a one-on-one coach, more for personal life coaching projects. And so that program helped me get more into the mental aspect of myself and for sports. That was kind of my focus, to see how it related to athletes and pro athletes, because I was also going through a process of, you know, through my career being a pro, just dealing with ego, dealing with reputation, dealing with what's next, you know, dealing with like just like who I am outside of this name in the mountain bike industry. And if I'm not this name in the mountain bike industry, who am I? You know, all those kind of big questions. So I got into that for a while, and that was quite a journey. And but no way was I able to translate it into making an income as much as the trial shows provided. And eventually this wheelie challenge idea came to me, and I gave that a go. And so that began the transition from relying on trial shows and just sponsorship to being an online skills coach, and still maintaining some sponsors, because there's a ton of value for my sponsors through what I do. online now these days. So I'm reaching such a potent demographic of riders.
Yeah, totally.
So
yeah, it's definitely different. I think that, stuff like what you're doing and, YouTubers and maybe Instagrammers and stuff like that are like, it's definitely making the bike industry kind of look at, where they're spending their marketing money and kind of reevaluating. I think that I don't think any one of them is like the only one that should be, but I definitely think that it's, you need this like portfolio nowadays. And some companies are a little bit more in tune with that than others. At least that's what it seems like to me.
Yeah. It's interesting to observe where dollars are spent, and it's really cool. I love companies that get creative in their marketing.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody the other day, and they were like, "It's just kind of crazy that a bike company might just throw a bike at some 17-year-old kid who like podiumed or top 10 in a couple events, and locally they'll give him a bike, and then there's this like maybe some YouTuber that's got like 60,000 subscribers, and they're like, oh, we'll give you like bro deal pricing, they're like, what the hell? Like this person has like the bead on like everybody that buys your stuff. It's just kind of weird, but
it's marketing, man. It's a tricky, I've spent my whole career trying to quantify the value I provide for my sponsors through whatever it is I'm doing, and it's so tricky because it's hard to translate exposure for brand name and creating an experience that relates and links to a brand, creating a positive experience that the brand's associated with. How do you measure the translation to sales? Like sales, some companies they want those kinds of numbers, but those numbers are impossible to provide.
Oh yeah, totally. You could give a coupon. I could put a coupon on a video that I do that says here's 50% off, and let's just say 1,000 people buy that thing, and maybe only like 250 of them will actually use the coupon.
Right. Yeah.
Even though like that's the whole premise of the video, you know what I mean, or something like that. It's like, it's really surprising. One of my friends,
well, that's exposure too. Presenting that offer is great exposure for that company, even if there's no transaction at the time. And then, it does show when if there are transactions, those are conversions that the company can measure. And, I do those things on my website as well for the partners I have. And it's pretty cool to see the engagement and the sales that do come through.
No, it is definitely neat, but it's one of those things that, at least I've had this conversation more than once with some different companies that I've talked to, and be like, we can put this code up here, but don't take that as that's the only sales that you got out of this. Right. Because, there's 10 people that for everyone, where it's like, well, that one guy saw the video and he just told his friend about it and how good the product was, and that guy bought it. He didn't use the code. Right. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, it's a tricky one, but it is a pretty cool part of the sport to be involved with, to be, any marketing, it's generally can be in the mountain bike industry, especially, it's a fun part of the sport, of the business to be involved in, because, marketing efforts generally involve a lot of cool, fun, interesting things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's super cool to be in the space where I'm at too, where it's like, I don't have an opinion that's being paid for by any means. You know what I mean? Like I can totally be like, no, this thing sucks.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that is cool. Well, that's probably also why a lot of your viewers value what you do and your show, is that you're not biased.
Yeah.
You're able to just call shit out the way it is based on experience, and you can relate. You relate. You're kind of in this similar kind of position that a lot of your viewers are in, and I think that's a pretty cool thing. People love.
Yeah, no, it's definitely fun. So you said earlier you were doing mountain bike yoga. What are some of the things that mountain bikers should be thinking about and ask? Like when you say yoga, I think about like stretching and stuff like that. What are things that you focused on during that?
Yeah, well, I just taught. Have you heard of the BC bike race?
Yeah. It's just recently going on, isn't it?
Yeah, just finished actually.
Yeah.
I taught. Well, initially, I brought yoga to that event in 2013. I raced the event and I taught yoga every day. So racing every day on your bike and then teaching yoga, quickly becomes obvious. Okay, well, what do these riders need from this yoga session? So a lot of it, for the session I just taught, is a lot of, we're, hunched over in this closed position on the bike. So opening up through the front body, getting the shoulders moving, resetting a range of motion, stretching and finding mobility in the wrists, moving the back, getting some interesting different twists and whatnot. Quads obviously they get worked. A lot of yoga classes miss quads completely. It's just hamstring lengthening by default in a lot of yoga poses. So we get into the quads a little bit more, get into the mid back, the thoracic spine, which is a little more kind of a specific pose that you need to get into to get sort of that part of the back, which often gets kind of tight for a lot of riders.
Yeah, that's definitely a tight spot for me.
The neck, of course. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of movements like that are really valuable. For me, yoga, I've been doing and practicing for 15 years, and that's been a big part of the helping me have longevity in my pro career. Having that regular practice and allowing me to tune more into my body, so I actually know when I'm doing damage to it. When I'm out riding, I'm just a little more intimate, a little more caring for my body.
No, I can definitely relate. I mean, when I was in my 20s, it was like you didn't even really care about stretching or anything. It's like, just go do it, man. You'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Drink a bunch of beer when you're done. And like now I'm, in my 40s, and it's like, holy shit. Like if I don't stretch a lot, like I'll notice my range of motion starting to go away. It's like, oh wow, it's really tough to get my foot up on my knee again. Totally. I need to start working on stretching that because of whatever, maybe injuries or things that, over time they just kind of build on each other.
Yeah. And then the breath practice as well is just huge in yoga. You get it, whenever you're doing a yoga class with an instructor that's good at cueing good deep full breaths. I mean, that's you practicing intentional breathing, and that translates massively to mountain biking in such a big way.
It's funny how like just somebody telling you to do something obvious is like makes so much of an impact sometimes. Like like you talk about like yoga, you're like, my knee-jerk reaction is like, that's some fairy shit, man. I don't need to do that. And then but then you go do it and you're like sweating fucking bullets and you're like, oh my god, I can't move this way, holy shit, like obviously I need to do more of this.
Like it is hard, and it can be hard and challenging, and this mentally challenging process for sure. And
I mean, I felt the same way. I remember for a long time somebody was trying to get me to go do a spin class. And I was like, go catch a fucking rabbit, dude. I'm riding a bike outside. I'm not going in a room full of a bunch of sweaty fucks, sweating my ass off, listening to some bullshit music. I can go out in the woods and like see life and enjoy it. Like, why the hell would I go to your dumbass spin class? So then I finally broke down and go to a spin class, and it's like something that I learned like immediately was like, drop your shoulders, and it was like something that you do when you're riding, where you're like, oh yeah, I am like scrunching up, why am I doing that? It's like, I think about that still, even like, more so when I'm road riding, obviously, but like even mountain biking, sometimes it's like, dude, no, relax, you have to tell yourself that. And if it wasn't for going to that dumbass class that I didn't want to go to, like, then all of a sudden I'm a fucking advocate for fucking spin classes now. I'm like, telling people, oh no, dude, you don't need to get a trainer. Just go do spin classes. They're super fun. And then they're looking at me doing the same thing. They're like, fuck you, dude. I could go out and ride bikes, man.
Same thing. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I was a little worried about my reputation when I started to preach yoga to mountain bikers.
Oh, I'm sure, man. Everybody was like, oh god, he drank the fucking Kool-Aid.
Yeah, totally. But I knew how beneficial it had been for me, so it was like, how could I not spread the word? Using the fact that I do have a reach. People do pay attention and take my advice often. I was like, why not share the goods? This has been great for me, and I hope you can give it a try. And so, yeah, there's a huge part. Yoga is there's a huge section of yoga classes and videos on my coaching website as well, because, I'd see that as part of, part of the whole healthy mountain biker lifestyle. I've got a slogan for the site, trail, bike, body, mind, flow. And so all those words kind of relate as a whole. And, so yoga, I've got a bunch of different yoga. It's not just me teaching. I've got other instructors and whatnot, and some other strength training things for the website, and mental fitness,
So it's like the yoga thing, like people just like push play and then they kind of just play along with it. And
yeah, totally. Yeah. Classes from, 10 minutes to an hour.
That's really cool.
Range, mostly in the shorter sort of 20-minute kind of range, because that's generally what's reasonable to do in a home or a hotel kind of situation. There's a bunch of people I know that travel for work and that are subscribers to my website, and so they'll.
I'm gonna have to lock my dog up if I do that, dude. Anytime we sit on the floor, he's like, I'm gonna go lick him.
Totally.
My lady was trying to do some like stretching the other day, and she's like, for fuck's sakes, can you just take him outside for a little bit?
Yeah, totally. Down, dog, down.
Right. He's like, no, this is the game. I'm in.
Yeah, totally.
That's great. So, it's interesting to me when I talk to guys like you or like Jeff Winowski or like Hans Ray that have been in the industry for so long, and like even like Andrew Taylor, like also like your career is not based around maybe your writing so much anymore. Like Andrew first, like he does like a bunch of videos and I mean, you're familiar with these other guys.
State.
yeah, that was really cool. He did 50 states. He like wrote through them all. So what is like, what's the value that you're talking about that you bring to your sponsors now? Like how is it that you're equating what you're doing into like this still being sponsored by them? You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. I mean, well, part of it is the experience I do have in the industry for such a long time. It does carry, the people I do reach who have known about me or know about my career, they do pay attention. Like I was saying before, they will listen to my opinion. It's and so whenever I do, I do free classes on my website. So, I've generated through the fact that I offer, I did the 12 ride flat pedal challenge, which had, tons of people taking that. And so I've got, a mailing list of, kind of 36,000 people. And so,
dude, there's that many people on your site?
That have taken either a free course or signed up for courses. So, that's that's an email reach bigger than a lot of, bike companies.
Yeah, no, totally. That's amazing, man. What was you caught my interest now. I'm like I told you earlier, ADD, you fucking throw a shiny ball at me, man. So what was the pedal thing? What was the flat pedal thing?
So the 12 ride flat pedal challenge, just because, there so many clipless pedal riders are missing out on a learning opportunity by staying locked into the pedals, and so many riders got into riding and started on clipless or switched to clipless very early, so they've only really ever experienced mountain biking with clipless pedals. And
yeah, you're speaking my language, man.
So my mission was to inspire people to give flat pedals a try so they could experience mountain biking in a different way. And by doing so, it basically forces them to learn how to utilize each of the skills on the trail in the most effective and efficient way. And riding for at least 12 rides is enough time for riders to begin to experience that, even if they don't follow the drills. Each day I've got a different drill, a different thing for riders to try to help them further explore the flat pedal experience.
This is such a interesting topic to me because obviously it's something I'm experiencing currently. So I think, you know, what you just said is almost like textbook of my life with pedals. So like, you know, I started out BMX and, you know, we would, you know, do huge freaking tabletop kind of jumps and hucks and stuff like that. And coming off your pedals was something that happened, but it wasn't something that happened like every freaking time, you know, like that was like, you know, we used to always like brag about our like shin scars, you know, because it was like shitty ass pedals with shitty ass shoes back then. And whenever I got into mountain biking, it was, you know, the toe clips were popular at that time. So it was like those of you guys that are a little younger, like a little plastic cage with a strap around your foot, and
so brutal.
You kind of like flipped it with your toe to get your foot back in, and
I know, yeah,
you could pull your foot out. And then whenever I took a little hiatus from mountain biking, and when I came back, it was like the guy at the bike shop was like, "Oh no, we don't use those anymore. Like we use these clipless things." And I was like, "Okay, well, cool, I'll do that." And then I did that for like, you know, probably like the last 10 years or so, maybe a little bit more. And I just, you know, all these like arguments online about clips or flats, like just, I always call it like a religion argument, you know, it's like whatever, it's like it's like religion or politics, like whatever people are most passionate about.
Yeah.
But I felt like, you know, I can't have an opinion if I don't like go and give it a shot, you know? And so when I bought the hardtail, like I said, I was kind of wanting
to and flat pedals.
Right. So I was like, you know, I want to get back to some of that skill set that I had when I was younger, and, you know, put flats on and got shoes, and God, these like pedals and shoes are like a million times better than they were when I was back in the day. But holy shit, the first like rock that I just rolled off of, it probably was only like 4 inches off the ground. Like came off that rock, lost both my pedals, just smashed my nuts all over the freaking place. You know, and it made me instantly, you know, realize, dude, there's a skill set that you're fucking up right now, man. You know, like, you know, like I could jump off a rock that was 4 feet, you know, no problem with my clips or whatever, you know. It's like, here, this is like 4 inches and I just fucking lost my shit. Like I just learned how to ride yesterday. And it really made me realize, like, cornering, like I never drop my heels anymore, you know. And it's like just little things that when you're clipped in, like, I think the way that you explained it is like, oh no, I'm more like locked in with the bike, I'm in tune with the bike. And it's like, no, dude, you're actually just not actually utilizing the skill that will actually make you ride better. You know, I'm not, you know, going to like lay the holy damnation down on clipless pedals just yet, but
no,
I at this point I took the clips off of my Bronson as well. So originally they were just, you know, flats on my Chameleon.
Yeah.
And now I have them flats on both of them. And
nice.
It's definitely, you know, it definitely makes me think about some things that I wasn't thinking about. I'd like to hear some of your like, you know, your tips or why you were what kind of things that you're preaching to people about, like what to practice or whatnot.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and I'm also not saying that flats are the answer for every mountain biker. You know, definitely there's certain riders riding styles or situations where clipless pedals are, you know, the way to go. Like, I mean, pro DH racing, you know, it's, you know, clipless pedals are going to be better in a lot of those race situations than flats. Having said that, you know, you can bet that every one of those downhill racers can rip on flat pedals. They've done their flat pedal homework, and that's one of the reasons why they can ride at such a high level with clipless. So, you know, and that was my experience as a young rider. I got right into clipless pedals when I started mountain biking, racing cross country. And then I got into trials riding, and I was practicing and learning how to ride trials with clipless pedals. It didn't make sense to me how I could possibly ride trials with flat pedals until I saw, you know, a couple other pros riding flats. I remember it was Ott Pie in Spain and Hans Ray. I was watching some of his videos and they were on flats. I'm like, what the hell? How is that even possible? And I swapped to flats and I completely sucked. I was terrible. Everything I'd learned, I went completely backwards on, but I held the course. I stuck with it long enough. And before I knew it, I blew past the level I was at with clipless pedals because kind of similar to what you were sharing, there were massive holes. There were things that I was shortcutting based on learning with clipless that I never would have discovered or realized if I hadn't switched to flats. So for the flat pedal challenge, I mean, a lot of it is just becoming comfortable, on the flats and realizing some of the benefits of having, the ability to dismount really quickly and instantaneously when things intentionally jumping off the bike. So I've got a couple lessons where you can learn how to get off the bike real quickly. That in itself inspires people to begin to feel more confident to try and attempt different technical, tricky sections of trail because they know they can instantaneously get a foot off the bike for balance, which is another big thing, being able to move your feet on the pedals, tilt them sideways, stick a foot out for balance. But just being able to quickly dab, when you're doing a tech climb or you're coming up to, a roll off or something and you feel kind of sketchy, or a quick dab, around a corner, whatever it might be that you might need. These are amazing opportunities to have and utilize when you have clipless pedals, and people are much more comfortable to try something with flats. It's a little counterintuitive at first, for a lot of clips.
Yeah, it's funny that the dab scenario for me and clips doesn't resonate. Like, I never had a problem with that.
Mm-hmm.
It's more like the things that I'm enjoying more than being able to take my foot off is being able to get my foot back on. Yeah. Like in the super technical spot where you did dab or you did stop, it's like on clips, it's like maybe your mud is under your freaking shoe because you put it down, or like trying to get like back into getting some speed and having your foot planted to get over this next little rocky section that you're standing on from zero. Like on flats is just so much easier. Yeah, it's like, oh my God.
I can't imagine some of the tricky technical sections trying to get back, clipped back in and negotiate this sketchy section. But learning skills also, like, I mean, I'm firm with people learning how to wheelie or learning how to manual that they have to be on flat pedals when they learn this.
Yeah.
It's a safety thing. Also for bunny hops, like you've got to learn how to bunny hop on flat pedals. Otherwise, you're just going to shortcut your way through. You're not going to feel the beautiful, proper technique of what a bunny hop is supposed to be, and unless you're on flat. So for learning that kind of thing.
No, I agree, because that was one of those things where, like, I know I used to be able to bunny hop pretty good on my BMX bike, and when I went back to flats, it was like, oh shit, dude, my bunny hops are all fucked up, because basically all I was doing is because then also, in that time frame, like I had gone to full suspension, so it's like all it's really doing is like preloading the suspension and kind of jumping with it, and not actually going through that motion to lift the bike as much. So it was like, that was one of those things where it was like I got on, and it's like all of a sudden I like barely could bunny hop. I was like, that was one of those, like, another aha kind of moment. It was like, yeah, no, I need to do this to get better. Like, obviously, like, even if at the end of this whole training pattern, maybe I ride flats for a year and I'm like, okay, cool, I got it. But like,
back to clipless, sure, totally. Right. I'd be stoked on totally stoked on that for people.
But at the very least, like, getting on them just made me realize, like, dude, there's some shit I definitely need to work on.
You got some homework.
Yeah. I mean, I think even like doing it, I feel like going to flats has helped me corner better. Because I'm thinking more about my foot position and like how my heels are dropped or whatever, and like maybe more so on technical stuff. But like, I just feel like it's really opening my eyes up to a lot of things that maybe I wasn't realizing, like you said, that I was getting shortcuts on.
Yay, cool.
Yeah.
Oh, man. That's
great. And I mean, that's totally not, anybody like feeding me anything to like get me there. It was just like, I put the pedals on, and it was just like what I learned just getting on the trail outside of what my experience has been. And then also knowing like what I could do back in my BMX days. I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, I used to hit jumps and be like freaking 10 feet in the air, and now I roll off a 4-inch rock and freaking lose it, you know, like,
Yeah.
you know, and it doesn't take that long, I think, to come back. You know, I'm actually just yesterday, I rode a downhill segment in my local area and PR'd it on my hardtail riding flats. And the time that I would have had before would have been with my 6-inch Bronson riding clips, you know, that's fucking sick, you know?
Yeah. Way to go, man.
Yeah. That's like really cool. You know, I mean, I'm sure there's freaking, according to Strava, 1,500 people that have a better time than me, but, but for me, like, that was awesome. You know, that's like definitely, you know, it meant a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. That's super cool. I love stuff like that. Actually, it reminds me of one of the trailhead tip traps in that course that I did. One of them was the idea that getting a new bike, latest technology, makes you a better rider. And I had one student just write saying that that, you know, he was so stoked on this new bike that and he got it, and he went out and got a PR on the new bike, and he was like, yeah, this bike. And then out of curiosity, he went back on his old bike and then he beat that PR
Right.
over his old bike. And part of, I mean, there's a lot of different reasons I share and provide in on that tip trap. I mean, yeah, it's awesome getting a new bike, and there's going to be advantages for sure, but they pale in comparison to the mental aspect that you bring to a new bike, and the power that can bring, you know, such as, you know, you're dreaming about this bike, you're seeing your favorite pros riding it, you're kind of visualizing, thinking about how you're going to ride once you get this new bike and what it's going to be like. And then, you know, you carry that belief into this new bike. And
Yeah. No, I can totally see what you're saying. I can relate with that when I bought my Bronson, because like before that I had a bike that was older technology. I just kept upgrading and upgrading.
Yeah.
And finally I was like, this geometry is, you know, I need something new, you know? And
yeah.
When I bought that bike, I definitely like went through that process of what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
The funny thing with the Chameleon,
like magic these days, it's unbelievable. I mean,
oh yeah, it was like, I couldn't believe it.
Not knocking the new, I mean, it is amazing, like,
yeah,
what bikes are capable of and what they invite as possible. But
the funny thing about the Chameleon for me was that, you know, when I got that, it was like I said, I wanted to kind of get back to some like BMX kind of stuff, but realistically, like if I was being like more than 100% honest, like the main reason I got that bike was for content for my channel. Was like, you know, like, let me get this. I can show people that you can ride a quote unquote entry level hardtail. I mean, that's a high end one for entry level, but like you can ride a hard trail. You can ride the same shit that I'm riding anyway, and be able to like kind of like tell that story.
Cool.
And I really didn't, in my wildest dreams, think that when I bought this bike, that my Bronson would be like, I'd have to like really have a reason to take it out. And that's what it's been like. I just had one of my subscribers yesterday when I was riding, like, stop me. And he's like, dude, where's the Bronson? Like, why do you never ride it anymore? And I'm like, this thing's fucking fun as hell. You know, like if I'm going to go somewhere like up in Tahoe, that's hella gnarly. Yeah. I'm going to take the full suspension bike. My back will fucking love me for it.
Yeah.
But like 90% of everything else that I ride, dude, this freaking hardtail is the shit, man. Like I fucking love this bike.
That's so great.
And it's like not what you know, like going into it was like the farthest thing that I would have ever expected to happen. It was really like, oh, I can make a bunch of videos about this. It'll be like really good for the channel. Nowhere was I thinking that like I was going to all of a sudden be a fucking hardtail advocate. Right.
I'm glad to hear. I'm stoked. Yeah. I mean, having logged plenty of time on hardtails, like I'm stoked to hear that there's a bit of a trend and some movement back to the classic hardtail. So
I think, you know, the thing that's really fun about it for me is that, like what I said initially or earlier on, was just, you know, it just makes things harder again when you've ridden your local area, you know, so many times. Like that one downhill segment that I was talking about was fun the first 300 times I rode it, you know, and it's still fun, the 700th time now that I've ridden it, but it's definitely not the same level of fun. You know what I mean? And things like getting a totally different bike, like a hardtail, or going night riding for the first time, like those things take those trails and they make them maybe not even new again, but like new and more extraordinary than they were before when they were new. You know, it's like,
yeah,
really fun to do. And I think that's, you know, not everybody can like travel the world and be able to like be like BKXE and just like go in every fucking country and ride trails, you know, like, but you can like make what you have in front of you wildly different by what tool that you take to get there.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, what tool you take and what mindset you take to the trail as well. Definitely both are pretty cool ways to mix up your riding.
Definitely. So we've done a lot of talking about the website. What does it cost to be part of that?
So yeah, I mean, I've always got one free course going, so that's often a good way for people to get an experience of what the site is like and how it works.
So anybody that's listening at any time can go to the site. What's the site?
They can just go to ryanleech.com or learn.ryanleech.com, and that'll bring up the website. And you can go to the menu and go to the free section. And on the website, you can find info about each of the different courses that I've got. The people can buy courses as an individual course, like a one-off. But most people, probably 90% of people, get a membership, which is $19 a month. And
that's not bad.
Gives them access to the whole library, and then gives them access to the coach team. And so it is pretty ridiculous value, actually, when you think about being able to basically having your own private coach 24/7 that you can reach out to. You've got questions about your skills. So.
Yeah, and I would assume that your ambassadors are other pro riders, or like just guys that have been like, what are the other ambassadors like? What's their kind of skill set?
So I've got so they've had to have gone.
Oh, hang on a second.
That's key.
Can you start that over again? Your internet is taking lay shit right now. So we'll see in the next 30 seconds of me just bullshitting whether or not that thing comes back together. So nonetheless, looks like he's getting a little pixelated over there.
Has it come back?
Yep, sounds like you're coming back around.
Okay, cool. Well, I was just talking about the ambassadors and coaches on my team.
Yes, thank you. Let's start that over again.
Yeah, cool. So they are students first. They've gotten familiar with all the progressions on all the different courses on my site. So that is the key qualifier for being an ambassador. And there's a bit of a selection process. A mini course that's designed just for the ambassadors to help bring them up to speed standard for how to be an ambassador. It's online base. Am I still with you?
Yeah, you're still there. Just
Am I still there?
Little bit kind of. Yeah, you're still there. It's just a little tingy. Maybe if you open the door or something, let some Wi-Fi in.
Yeah. Hello. Open the spaceship door there.
Yeah, there we go. Maybe that'll solve the problem.
Yeah, so cool. So yeah, and then the other coaches or qualified coaches, they've helped out maybe behind the scenes with some of the course design, and also just really interesting, cool people, and able to. One of the keys is able to communicate through text, very properly, and so and also be able to use tools such as we do photo comparison as well. Often we'll take a screenshot of the video and compare it to a video of me in one of the tutorials. So and it's a really great community. We've got a private Facebook group that we all hang out in as well. And so that's a little more of a free for all kind of thing where, it's people from all over the world in the group. And so it's a really interesting mix because they're all they have to pay to be there, which also self-selects the people who are in the community. And so that creates, there's no trolls. It's just a really positive environment.
Right. You don't pay freaking $20 a month to go fucking start shit with people, right?
No, exactly. Totally. Exactly. So so that's also kind of one of the aspects that people talk about being actually one of the bigger values is being able to hang out and communicate and interact with the other riders from around the world and the coach team as well. So
when you first came up with that 30-day wheelie challenge, did you think that it was going to grow to be what it is now?
I didn't. I knew when I was creating it that shit, this is valuable. People are gonna love this. So I had a really good gut feeling when I was creating it that this was
going to be 4 years ago. So at that point, like really the mountain bike kind of YouTube scene hadn't really kind of popped off yet either. So there wasn't really like a lot of, hey, let me just get on YouTube and have some schmuck in freaking Sacramento tell me how to do a wheelie, right?
Right. Yeah, right, exactly.
So like I'm sure you getting in there at the right time, that probably helped a lot.
Yeah, probably. It's different. Yeah, I mean it's a different space than YouTube, obviously. So it's and yeah, it did surprise me. It does surprise me now to realize where things are at. I thought it might be just that one course, but I quickly realized that there's a lot more that I could share that would be really valuable. So made another course and then another one and then another one. And yeah, it's just been quite a ride.
Yeah, that's crazy. When you told me 36,000 people that, that
have gone through.
Like you've influenced that many people. Like, it's kind of like, and I'm sure like 3 times that in your career professionally, over the years, but like when you see like an actual number in front of you, it's kind of like me, like, this subscriber count that I have, it's like, wow, like when I'm talking, like there's that many people out there that actually wanted to fucking hear. Like, who would have thought, some fat guy that likes to drink too much would have like 7,000 people that wanted to hear what the fuck he had to say,
Yeah, no, it is pretty amazing. It is pretty cool. It's a privileged position to be in. And obviously, we put in the effort to be where we are, and it's just so grateful to have the opportunity to and have the the platform to be able to share.
It's amazing,
and just share the positive vibes and it's yeah, pretty cool. I can't remember what question I was even responding to there.
Yeah, me neither. I totally forgot. I started reading one of these comments. Somebody asked if you do the sketch work of mountain bikers on your site.
Oh yeah, that's actually he was an early customer on the website, and his name's Wasik, Wacky. If you're ever on Pink Bike, he's one of the famous trolls on Pink Bike.
You do have trolls on your side.
I do, but they reserve their trolling for the public space. He's actually a brilliant man. Obviously his artistry is unbelievable. And so I've worked with him quite closely for, since I started the website.
That's super cool. So
great guy.
Like, 4 years later, I mean, like when you first started, I assume it's just like you, right? Or did you like reach out to your sponsors and say, hey, I need to like get some capital to try to start this thing? I mean, did you know anything about web hosting or?
No, I mean, I had some savings, I had some time, and it didn't cost me too much. And I knew enough about online stuff. I've always had a bit of a tech side to me, so I just figured it all out and got it all launched, and it was just myself. And I was able to keep up with the comments through that barely. And then as things started to grow, I created an ambassador team just to help out. And then got a couple more coaches, and it's just one small step after the other. And you know.
So are you still doing any kind of shows for your sponsors or anything like that? Or is like when I saw you in Sedona, were you there just on your own, or
yeah, no trial shows. I'm not doing trials shows anymore, but I'm still doing events and different projects for my sponsors, you know, Norco and Shimano. Shimano is one of the key sponsors I work with, and Marzocchi, Kenda Tires, and Riders Eyewear. You know, those are all brands that are still supporting me in different ways. So yeah, Sedona Mountain Bike Fest, I ran the bunny hop party. So yeah, were you there? That was super
fun.
I
was there. Yeah,
it was a blast. So had that, the foot down competition as well. I was also teaching some skills jams when I was there, and also did, you know, a Shimano ride, group ride, and so those kinds of things, just getting out there, having some one-on-one experiences or just in-person experiences with people, and you know, there's always, you know, some photo shoot projects and media projects and whatnot for sponsors.
So how's that work? Like Norco just calls you up like, hey, we're gonna fly this photographer down to Sedona and we want you to go out and like just take some pictures of our bikes? Or
yeah, pretty much. Yeah, exactly. So
like when you're doing that, like you just like, you guys just decide to go on a ride, or is it like, hey, we know like we're going to go to this one spot and we're going to film a bunch of pictures there, and then we're going to go to this one spot and film? Or is it just like kind of like laissez-faire, like let's do this loop and we'll see what fucking happens?
Yeah, that's often more so the case.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, like, it's like we go, like the photographers, you know, pro photographer will know, you know, we could go for a ride and just session one particular spot because, you know, the photographer knows that that's a spot that's gonna be dialed, you know, and spend time working on that shot, and then they'll get the shot and they'll know they've got it. So so
is it like you go out and like shoot all day and then they use like 5 pictures of the whole day or something?
It's all it's different every time. I was on Hornby Island for a festival, and Bike Magazine was doing an article on the history of this unique Gulf island not too far from Vancouver, and so I got out on a photo shoot doing some trialsy stuff on the beach on a bunch of logs with Bruno Long, who's one of Bike Magazine's main photo editors. And so, you know, we hung out there shooting for maybe about an hour. And, you know, he got, you know, 4 or 5 shots that he could submit that he knew were banger shots. And then we went for a swim. So
right on. That's super cool. So being a pro level rider, and I mean, trials in my opinion is just amazing. I remember the first time that I've seen a trials video online, I was just like amazed at the control, and you know, just it was like, wow, I didn't know you could do that on a bike, you know. And so like you guys that ride trials, like I really hold a high level of respect for. And it makes me wonder though, like now you've been riding professionally, you know, for 30 years, like what kind of things is it that like when you get to a trail that makes you sketched out, you know, like, cause like for me, I've been riding that long, but I'm not riding at your level, you know? So for me to be sketched out, I feel like it's normal, but I feel like guys like you are like when I met Andrew Taylor, it's like, dude, he rode Rampage. It's like, what the fuck scares you, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it is it's a really fortunate position to be in, to have ridden mountain bikes for so long and to have such varied experience of different trails kind of in my body. Like I can ride a lot of really tech scary stuff and not fear crashing. For me at this stage of my career, you know, I don't have the urge to push myself or take risks at all. Like I still love cleaning a trail and ripping and getting some speed going, but I'm always below that edge. Whereas for a good chunk of my career, it was my job was to walk that fine line of being in disaster zone kind of thing. And
right, like the fine line between like ER visit and beers afterwards.
Totally. And that's actually really what a pro is. It's someone who can walk that fine line and consistently not end up in the hospital. We're good at we're good at doing that, and we're
Right,
good at
right.
doing that for long enough to get good enough to get sponsorship, and long enough and good enough to create a career. So I was one of those that managed to avoid the ER.
Yeah.
Was just smart enough to avoid going over the edge. And certainly I had, I scared myself a lot of times, and, I took a toll on my body, but I've got no interest now. I want to ride my bike forever. Longevity
Right.
is really
Right.
key for me. That's where I want. Yeah, I want to be riding when I'm 70, 80 years
Yeah.
old. And that requires me to ride in a certain way now that is below what I'm capable of a lot of the times.
Hmm.
I'm, and for instance, for jumping, I created a course called Jump with Confidence on my website. And that was a course for myself. I hired some other coaches to guide me in that course. That was kind of a unique one for my website, because I wanted to learn how to jump and jump confidently. That was never part of the trials toolkit of skills. There was something
Right. Right.
intentionally avoided as a trials rider, because generally when I went jumping, I'd end up crashing and hurting myself. So I tended to avoid that part of mountain biking, because I didn't want to hurt myself for my actual job, which was performing trial shows.
Because you would get paid like per show, right? It's not like you're a salary employee, right?
Yeah, I mean, I
So if
got
you got
salary.
hurt, you were not getting paid anymore.
No, I mean, I got salary from my sponsors, but
Oh, okay.
I got paid per show as well, and then that's
Right. Right. Okay.
to make an income.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, so anyway, I worked through, and I got decent at jumps, but I've got a long way to go to feel comfortable doing any kind of gap jump, for instance.
Hmm.
But I don't, a lot of people would just keep pushing themselves and developing that skill set. But no, I'm happy. Intermediate tabletop jump. I'm good with that. I don't need to go any further.
Yeah.
So
You're not gonna like go boost all of A-line up there.
no, exactly. I don't have that desire, and I can't force the desire either. Like, I'm in tune enough with my own sort of desires and goals. And while on one hand I feel a push as a pro to continue progressing and pushing and making sure that I can keep up when I'm out on a group ride, but I don't have that anymore. I don't have that need. I don't have that drive or desire. I just want to ride and enjoy myself when I'm out on the trail. I want to still challenge myself with tech lines that are fun and creative.
Yeah.
And I get a good high from that. I want to refine and bring more style and smoothness to the skills that I already have. And, that's a lifelong project, kind of like cornering is a lifelong project. I
Yeah.
can do all these things really safely and really enjoy myself. I can see a lot of really beautiful parts of nature, and really take that in and enjoy that. I can connect with the people that I'm out riding with more so than if I'm just preoccupied in my own kind of game of ego or trying to conquer a certain line. And so those are aspects of the sport for me that are really important, and that I'm nurturing in my own way at this stage of my career.
I wonder how much of that is just like, wisdom of getting older. Because I mean, some of the
Sure.
stuff that you said, like even with myself, obviously I wasn't at a pro level, but I know in my 20s, I definitely there wasn't I didn't really give a fuck about maybe breaking my leg or my arm or, it's like, but now it's like, man, I screwed my shoulder up a few years back. And ever since then, it's been like, dude, that kept me off the bike for like a long time. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to do that, because
No.
this is like my church,
Yeah.
and if I can't go to church, like that was not good for me, like spiritually, like mentally, like it was physically, like I gained a whole bunch of weight. Like it was just like so many parts of just me not being able to ride bike really fucked me up. And it was like, man, I don't want to fuck with that,
Well, it's hard though. It is like, yes, and we are getting older and wiser, but still it's easy to get caught up in things when
Yeah.
you group ride. It's easy to lose your focus and not be paying attention and something happens. Meditation actually, I was going to mention it when we were talking about yoga. Like for me, like a lot of people say they crash and have the worst injuries when they're riding something that's not even that hard, or they're just riding along. And, I've had the experience and talked to a lot of people, and often it's just because they're lost in their head. Thinking about other things. They're not in the moment, and then boom, they catch a pedal, or
something
or they're not reading the dirt and they slide out, or they're just they get caught up and realize they're going too fast. They didn't anticipate something coming up. And for me, I've found that having a solid meditation practice has definitely helped with sort of that ability to remain present during those kind of riding situations, and that links to the longevity topic I was just talking about. So it's not necessarily just about pushing yourself or taking the risks like we did when we were younger, but just being present, not getting caught up in the adrenaline, because adrenaline is still a drug, man. I love it. I
mean, I think that's the main reason we all do it,
I mean, I still get caught up in that too. And or just being able to still, that peer pressure is still a factor, even as you get a little.
That peer pressure is a beautiful drug, man, because it's like, on one hand, it's like, it causes you to do things that you wouldn't have fucking talked yourself into on your own. And then on the other hand, it causes you to do things that you wouldn't have fucking talked yourself in on your own. It's like a catch-22 there.
It's totally. Yeah. So being able to be with all those elements that are part of what makes the sport so incredible, in a more in a way that honors that intention of being able to ride your bike forever. Being clear about that has really helped me when I was in some of those peer pressure kind of situations, especially, I mean, being a pro and having a name and showing up on group rides, definitely it was challenging to allow myself to be the one that walks a section or skips a section.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I mean, I can imagine, like, my like place in like going out on group rides is like, people know I'm a fat ass and like I'm not the best rider, so they're like already like, oh yeah, look, biker's walking up that hill, no shit. But like, to be like a pro rider, I can definitely see there had to be like pretty high level of like, you feel like you're committed to do that because that's what these people came to see, right?
Right. So it was a tricky time to go through that, but I feel like I'm through it.
Yeah. Well, no, that's good. That's good. What's one of the places or times in your career that you look back on and you just like, you reminisce, you're like, man, that was really cool that I got to do that, or really cool that I was part of that, or.
Yeah, good question. Well, you brought up Jeff Lenoski on, and so I did the Vans Warp Tour, this punk rock tour through the US, through all the states. It was like a 2-month long tour, and we did that for a couple summers together. Traveled on a tour bus and did trial shows in front of just tons of people, and just had a great experience and great time. So that was a cool one. And
he's a super cool dude too, I'm sure, man.
Great, yeah.
I've met him a few times, and the first time I met him, I was like I didn't really know him at all. I've been one of those guys that was into bikes my whole life, but never really was a person that like paid attention to who pros were.
Right.
Honestly, like, I think the only pro rider that I probably knew before I started my YouTube channel was like Danny Maxskill and Lance Armstrong. You know what I mean? Like I know a bunch of them now, but it's because I've met them. You know what I mean? Like, and I like, so I just never was somebody that was really in. But when I met him, like, really fucking cool guy, really humble, just like you. I mean, like somebody was saying in the chat that they find you like a real humble guy with earnest goodwill for everybody to improve their game, is what they said.
Wow.
Like. That's
cool.
Yeah. Like that's really cool. That's one of the things that I do like about mountain bikers, in general, is that Usually the guys that are like really good are not fucking boisterous about it, you know?
Yeah.
I don't think you need to be, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I guess. Yeah. Yeah. I get that. Yeah. That's true. Just
I
kind
don't
of
know.
be who you are.
I would guess that probably the guys that are being too boisterous are probably still on their way of getting to that Zen state, right?
Yeah.
So what's
Yeah.
in tune for you here in the near future here? You just keep plugging away on the website. Do you have any like other kind of big things that you're doing?
Yeah. Plugging away on the website. You know, it's a big one. Be Amish with works, kind of a couple group rides, and my way down to Arizona. I'm working on a course called Beginners. That's going to be the big project of the winter.
So I'm gonna paraphrase what I think
spring.
you just said there. You said I'm in Squamish right now. I'm heading down to Arizona. You started a new course. We didn't catch what the new course was though, because the Wi-Fi was like, I'm not with
it. Well, there's a few courses I'm working on that I want to get out. The big ones.
Well, so he said that he didn't want to give out what the new course is, but maybe that's what's going on with the internet. He's like, put on the internet Wi-Fi jammer right now so that I can actually say the name of it and be like, dude, I told you it's not my fault you didn't fucking hear it. So hopefully we can get you back here in the last, like, it's almost 2 hours to wrap this thing up. And before we have like the thermonuclear internet meltdown. Let's see it. Let's see if we got a little more Ryan Leech coming back before we end this. Maybe not. Any of you guys in the chat, while I'm going to sit here and spin my wheels while his internet comes back on, have any questions you want to ask Ryan? I'll take a look at that while I just ramble on for a minute or two. We'll see what happens with his internet. Those of you guys that threw up a super chat, actually only saw one of them. Thanks a lot, Brian T. What's up, Rob, for the beer fund? $5, dude. Brian T's always there every show. I appreciate all of that. You guys that are just running into this channel for the first time, make sure you hit the subscribe button and support the channel any way you can. If you liked the video, if you laughed once, if you got one piece of information out of it that you liked, hit the thumbs up. It's really not that fucking difficult, right? If you didn't like a bunch of shit, hit the thumbs down button 2 times, walk away feeling like you overachieved it. You did a good job there. Those of you guys that don't like listening to this shit on YouTube for whatever reason, there are other ways to hear this. I have this as a podcast on Google Play and Spotify and the Apple Podcast Store and all those fancy places that you can listen to a podcast. And I can see that Ryan's internet is like on point again. So Ryan, what was it that you said you're working on?
Oh, yeah, the big course for this fall is going to be called Beginners Blast Off. It's got a couple more in the works, but that's going to be a big focus. So it'll be basically beginner to intermediate. So
I think, stuff like that is always valuable because I've watched videos on shit that I know how to do just by other creators that I like. And they're like, oh, I'm going to do this. Like the one that's coming to mind right now is there's a guy named Alex Chamberlain. He's a pro rider as well. He was doing his own channel for a bit. And he was like changing brakes or something like that. It was something that I had done like a bunch of times. I was just watching it because I wanted to see his video. And there was like a couple of things that I pull out of it. I was like, oh, wow, I never really thought about doing it that way. Or that's a really good way to remember that.
Yeah.
And I think, even as a rider that's been riding for a while, like checking something out that's based towards new people, like I bet you pick something up.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a super valuable course. So I've been wanting to do it for a while, and now's the time.
So what's the free course that's out right now?
Trailhead tip traps.
So what does that mean?
So that's the well-intentioned tips that riders spew out at the top of a trail or partway along a trail that, they're just a few words that they throw out, but the tip can cause more harm than it gives. It's very partial. And so basically the tip might kind of like that dropping the outside foot. It might be useful in one circumstance, but it can get locked in those riders' heads and cause them to be in a bit of a trap for the rest of the time. So there's 7 of them that I've.
So like use more front brake when you're going down this rock roll. You'll be good.
Right. Well, the one for that is get your weight back on steeps, which is again, it can be useful in some certain circumstances, but definitely not in all. Or to look further down the trail, look further ahead. That's trailhead tip trap.
Yeah, no, that's definitely. I see what you're saying. Because like the weight back one is if you do that in the wrong spot, you're unloading the front tire, so you're losing some stuff there.
So right. Yeah, basically I fill in those tips to make them much more powerful and useful.
So how often does the free video change?
Generally once a year.
Once a year.
Yeah.
So that stays up. So basically, if somebody comes and they want to see the free one, are they kind of like signing up for an account at that point and then they get the free one?
Yeah. So it's they have to sign in to get into the platform where the videos are hosted. So they create a free account. For the free course, you don't have to have a credit card. You don't have to use that, but you just put in your email and name, and it unlocks the video, and you can work through the video, and it includes interaction with our coach team as well, so they can get that experience of what it's like. So, and then yeah, for the membership, there's also a 7-day free trial. So if someone does want to check out the full experience, then they sign up with a credit card, and that gives them 7 free days and unlocks everything. So
that's awesome. So RyanLeech.com.
Yeah.
So that's RyanLeech.
Correct. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'll definitely put the link up in the show more. Is there anything else you want to say to people before we wrap this up?
No, I mean, I'm just super stoked that we could hang out and chat, and that you've got an audience where we can have a voice, and
yeah,
you're great to hang out with.
Oh, thank you, man.
It's good to hang out and spend this time with you.
Yeah, definitely, dude. It's been a blast. Like every time I sit down for one of these interviews, like I never know what I'm going to get into. I never know like where the conversation's going to go. And like, I hands down, Ryan did not pay me to say this ahead of time. Like, definitely did not think that I wanted to come out of this fucking conversation trying to learn how to fucking do a wheelie. But I think you talked me into it, man. I'm really kind of excited to take a look at your site. And I think I will, I think I'm definitely like going to do a video about that process and with your content as well, because I think that's you spoke to me, and I would have never had that opportunity for you to speak to me if we weren't here on this platform. I really appreciate you taking the time. I know it was a long time in the making for us to get together, and I had a great time chatting with you, man.
Great. Right on. So glad.
Sweet. So everybody out there, like I was saying earlier, if you want to listen to this shit on a podcast, go check it out on one of those podcasts and do a review on it, please. Only 5-star reviews is the only acceptable review that you can do. If you want to do a 4-star review, there's plenty of other podcasts to do that on. So do that over there. One thing for you guys to remember, if I could actually speak today, I'm trying to wrap this shit up. Just remember one thing and one thing only. It only takes a bike to be a biker. Get the fuck out and be one, bitches.